can I ask, has your life changed yet?
One thing that I've learned and taken away from this so far is the psychology almost like behind why you're asking certain things. And it's not about like the question itself, it's about being able to be dynamic in the conversation like you are when you're at like a networking party or something like that. You have to be dynamic uh,
Hmm.
and go with the flow. You don't have a script that you pull out of your pocket when you're talking to somebody. So it's like kind of getting we did script something for me that for finally for the first time was actually like custom to my brand and to my offer. But
Mm.
then from there, I was able to actually just use that as almost like an example of how it could go, and then going deeper into like the why behind it and really building the skill set in myself to not need that script ever. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you know why, like the real core and the meat and potatoes of what you're doing on the call, for one, you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit to some extent versus like coaching somebody for an hour. Um, because you know where you're going with something. You're not trying to like invent the wheel as you're going or
Hmm.
all this value or prove yourself to them or a lot of the other like things that sometimes I was doing on calls.
Heather, I am so stoked to have you on. Welcome, 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 welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So, Heather is one of my badass coaching clients, and she runs an incredible program. She's also here in San Diego, and she helps mainly women with their gut health, IBS, all kinds of different conditions. And uh, we met 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
I think so. Yeah,
I think time goes really quick. I think it was 2021. So, we met in Costa Rica. Do you remember how we met?
I do.
You want to tell the world?
So we're in a really small town in rural Costa Rica during the pandemic, and my friends and I didn't have a car. So we went out to the road and just did the old-fashioned thing where you put up your thumb and hope to get picked up, and then came Mason.
I had a car. I had a car. Those cars are expensive out there to rent, yo. That's like those things are pricey.
Especially in Dominical, like there's not even a place. Like you got to go into the city to bring one of those out to the small.
Yeah, I was really proud of myself for having a car at that point in my life because I just gone from being like broke AF to getting my first high ticket sales job. So I felt like a baller. But yeah, I picked her up and like it was like her and like three of her friends, and we went and partied on the beach basically. We went and had some fun, enjoyed some sun, and then we've stayed connected since. And just recently, she hit me up because I guess just for a little context, it sounds like you had actually been really crushing it with your sales for the last 2 years. You started your gut health business, went online. You're doing incredibly well, but it sounded like you hit a little bit of a dip. So I guess tell us like what were some of the struggles you were having, I guess, around sales and maybe why you reached out in the first place.
Honestly, it was kind of always, I think, a happy accident that I was able to close sales ever in general. I think I just had a lot of trust with my audience, and I had no skills and no training in sales. So I definitely wasn't going about it the proper way or the way that I would do it now, but it kind of just stopped working. It was something that got me through in the early stages of my business, and then as I wanted to scale and build more predictability,
Yeah.
um, it just wasn't working anymore what I used to do.
Yeah. I think what you're sharing there is actually also a common case. I'm seeing that on a couple of my teams where there's people who are like over the last few years, the market's just getting a little more difficult. And then also if you've gone through all of your organic, it gets to a point where like you can't just rely on marketing like skills. And that's always important, better marketing, better funnels. But like at some point, it's the sales skill set as well. And it sounds like that's really what you've leaned into. Um, What would you say were like some of the biggest challenges you were actually having on the calls prior to working with me? I mean, I know we're just getting started. It's been really cool to see you have like growth. I'm trying to get a sense like where do you feel like you were? How were you feeling on calls? What were some of the challenges you were experiencing?
The biggest one was honestly like I'm a practitioner, so I want to coach people and I want to help them. And I because I had no background in sales, I didn't realize that a sales call or a discovery call with a prospect is different than coaching them. Um,
Mm,
so I was trying to give, I think, too much value on the calls, and as a result, I felt pretty drained from my calls.
yeah.
Uh, And sometimes they were still enjoyable because I like helping people, but if it didn't result in a sale, it felt kind of thankless and kind of like I'm putting myself out on a limb and not being met with like that equal energy from the prospect, if that makes sense.
That makes sense on like 1,000 different levels. On on the first level, I see this a lot. I coach in a ton of different communities, and I what you're saying is not uncommon. I call it the coaching trap. It's something where, especially as experts, it's really easy to want to talk about what we know really well rather than to ask questions because it takes less mental effort to talk about what we talk about all the time and less creativity. It's like it's an easy thing to just fall back on. Let me talk about something I know. But the trick of that is it feels like we're giving value, but one of the things but ultimately we're actually not because it's unfortunate. Like I remember a sales call I had with a gentleman where he said like, "Thanks so much. You gave me so much value on this call." And I asked him, I was like, "Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate the sentiment. Can I ask, has your life changed yet?" And he said, "No." Right. And so it depends how we define value. For me, value is when we actually start taking action on the path that's creating transformation, not just talking about it. And so I'm like really stoked that you're here learning how to ask skilled questions so you can help people take better action rather than just like get hyped about it. Does that make sense? And so I guess I'm curious, what have been some of the breakthroughs or lessons? Because like you've already ramped up your close rate this first week. We're already seeing some shifts. Like, what do you feel like were some of the subtle shifts or big shifts, breakthroughs, like key takeaways so far that aha moments?
Oh man, I mean the biggest thing was getting honestly like I've had so many people try and give me scripts before and I mentioned this to you before we started working together, but I have a really hard time following them because it doesn't click like why am I asking these questions? So I
Mm,
one thing that I've learned and taken away from this so far is the psychology almost like behind why you're asking certain things. And it's not about like the question itself, it's about being able to be dynamic in the conversation like you are when you're at like a networking party or something like that. You have to be dynamic uh
hmm
and go with the flow. You don't have a script that you pull out of your pocket when you're talking to somebody. So it's like kind of getting we did script something for me that for finally for the first time was actually like custom to my brand and to my offer. But
Mm,
then from there, I was able to actually just use that as almost like an example of how it could go, and then going deeper into like the why behind it and really building the skill set in myself to not need that script ever. That makes
yeah. It's like seeing the script as like the training wheels and like the ideal flow of how it would go, but then in reality having the flexibility and the you're dynamic enough to actually do it in slightly different ways to rearrange things, not just be stuck on trying to read it word for word.
yeah, yeah, because if you know why, like the real core and the meat and potatoes of what you're doing on the call, for one, you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit to some extent versus like coaching somebody for an hour. Um, because you know where you're going with something. You're not trying to like invent the wheel as you're going or
Hmm.
all this value or prove yourself to them or a lot of the other like things that sometimes I was doing on calls.
Yeah.
Um, but then yeah, you kind of just you have training wheels and then you eventually like don't need them.
Yeah. And it's cool to say that in a week because normally it takes longer to start to feel any sort of comfort or breakthroughs, but that's already coming through for you. You mentioned something really important, which is just understanding the why behind the questions. I kind of see it as it's like we get the script and then we ask ourselves, why are we asking these questions? And what are the beliefs? What are the outcomes? What are the outcomes we really want from the call? And once we have that, then we can be more, like you said, dynamic about how you get it. I know when you came to me, one of the biggest things you said is you're just feeling really drained after like a lot of your sales calls. Like, how have you been feeling the last few days after your calls? Like, how is that shifting in terms of how you're feeling after your calls?
Yeah, I'm like not feeling drained from calls now. I mean, it's still a process. You're still investing time and you're talking and
Mhm.
using your brain and your voice and everything, but it feels like even if they say no, which I'm hearing a lot less of, which is also nice, but even when they do say no or you don't get an immediate yes, it's like I don't feel like I've just like given them all
Mm,
of the value and like it's almost like you feel taken advantage of. Like if you're a guy and you take a girl out on a date and she's just like using you for dinner, and then you're
mm,
like, you're like damned if you do and damned if you don't. Kind of like I kind of often felt like I was cornered into like giving this value, and then there was no like reciprocal relationship. I don't know.
That makes total sense. And it's coming back to redefining what is value. Is value just information or is value transformation? Right. And I think you're seeing that now as like it might feel like value because that's what we're conditioned is to just vomit a bunch of info and facts and maybe give people trainings. But ultimately, the thing that's actually for these coaching programs going to help them is what? It's the accountability, it's the structure, it's the roadmap, the direction, the guidance. It's them actually enrolling in the program and doing the work. It's not talking about it that changes it, it's the actions. So, no, I'm super stoked for you. We're just getting started. I am curious if anybody was considering working with me on sales training, maybe they were on the fence about should I do this, should I not do it? Like, what would you tell them?
Do it. Like it paid for itself in less than a week. So definitely do it. I've had lots of coaches. I've never been able to comply with any kind of sales structure. It never resonated. It always felt icky to me.
Hmm.
I just I couldn't follow through with it. It didn't make sense in my brain. And I just kept falling back into the same pattern. So literally like a week with Mason, and I just feel like I can do it and I'm seeing results and I can relax. And yeah, it's already like so worth it.
Yeah, I'm grateful to hear that and beyond stoked to be supporting you. We're literally just at the tip of the iceberg is the funny part. Like earlier today, you're like, wait, sales is questions and only questions? I was like, yeah. I was like, how did you not hear that yet? It's like who I think there's people who are stuck in an older model of selling, of pushing and trying to convince, and it's exhausting. And it's what you were describing a minute ago, which is like I'm trying to give value, aka push my product and push how good I am, push how different I am. But pushing is like literally so draining. And what we do here is the exact opposite. We pull completely and we get people to pull themselves in through skilled questions. And it's much more magnetic, it's detached. And I'm not really selling. I'm letting them do all of the heavy lifting and the hard work. And it's just so cool to see you do that. So appreciate your trust in me. I'm looking forward to doing another one of these maybe in a couple of months to see where you're even at after this gets even bigger and better. And appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. Thank you so much.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort, stacking penny stocks.